parts of the world. Rare pictures from a remarkable new film, which is called Arrows Against the Wind. Here to tell us about it, would you please welcome the filmmaker, Tracy Groom. Welcome, Tracy. It is, we're talking about West New Guinea, we're talking about a country on our doorstep, and yet we know nothing, we never see anything about it, do we?
Nothing at all. It's one of the last untouched wilderness regions left in the world. It lies on the doorstep of Australia, yet no one hardly even knows of the existence.
And even within that, even though it's isolated from the rest of the world, within the country itself, there's also areas that basically are seeing white people very, very rarely.
Very few tourists go into the region. In fact, I mean, a funny little story was when we visited a very remote area of the Baliem Valley, and we were talking to the tribal elders there and saying, look, have many tourists been into the region? And this tribal elder replied, oh, yes, you know, we have quite a few tourists come through. We had one in 87, we had one in 81, we had one in 76. It highlighted...
Yes, how rarely they see them.
Exactly.
Now, what about the... why did you go? You didn't go as a tourist.
I didn't go as a tourist. I went there on a business visa, posing as an artefact buyer with cinematographer and an interpreter.
So you took one of these special videotapes like people used to film their families.
Yep.
And you went in there under the why? Because the Indonesians wouldn't let you in?
Well, anthropologists, film crews, journalists, they're all banned from entering Irian Jaya. So we had to go in there posing as artefact buyers to get the story out, to film the story and get it out of the country.
All right. Now, so what would you have faced? I mean, can you go back to Indonesia now, given the fact that you've basically broken the rules?
No, I accepted that a long time ago, that I wouldn't be able to go back into the country.
What makes these people fascinating, apart from the fact they've been isolated?
Well, they have a very complex culture that's very colourful. They take part in ritualised warfare, for example, the Dani, although that doesn't exist so much now. But the Dani were very humorous in their, we can see on the pictures here, very humorous on the battlefield.
This is sort of choreographed like a ballet.
Yeah, I mean, it's very ritualised. They used to hurl insults across the battlefield to each other. The arrows weren't actually straight. They're actually built slightly skewy, so when they'd fire an arrow, it wouldn't ever hit the target. It would just go slightly off the mark. So very few injuries were actually, happened.
So West Irian became the 26th Indonesian province, even before Timor,
yep,
which has been in the news with us recently. But and I guess the problem has arisen since the Indonesian government decided to shift 500,000 people from other Indonesian islands and transport them there.
Yeah, transmigration has been a big problem. It's resettlement of Indonesians from overcrowded areas like Java and Bali into Irian Jaya, and the indigenous people now threaten to become a minority in their own land, which is devastating for them.
They make the point to you time and time again in the documentary, which I looked at last night, saying, look, we're Melanesian, they're not. They're different people to us, and yet I think at the moment the Indonesians who've come from other islands represent about half the population.
Yeah, there are different people physically, culturally, ethnically. They look different. They are a completely different people with different cultures, and what the Indonesian government's trying to do is assimilate those people to become Indonesians. They want one kind of man in Indonesia.
We saw the man with the protection over his private parts. I mean, do you have to go out of the towns now to find that, or have the Indonesians eliminated that?
Well, about 50% of people in the towns wear penis cords, and they're very prevalent actually in the Baliem Valley itself when you get out of the town. And I mean, I think they place a lot of importance on those penis cords. When you see the Dani in the towns wearing raggedy clothes, raggedy shorts, they lose their dignity, their sense of cultural identity, but they walk with pride, when they wear those penis cords. It's a part of their culture.
Yes, it's the old missionary thing, isn't it, of basically putting missionary clothes on people who never wore them in the past.
That's right.
It's called progress, but I mean, is it any different to what we've done with Aboriginal people here, what Aboriginal people have suffered in Brazil and most parts of the world where so-called civilisations moved in?
It isn't very different. I think the contrast is that we should have learnt the lessons of our history. We have exploited the Aboriginal people. I think if we'd learned, especially in Australia or countries over the world, if we've learned the lessons of those history and seen how we've annihilated cultures, indigenous cultures across the world, then we should realise that, look, we can do something about this. There is increased awareness. We can stop the complete obliteration of a people, of a unique people.
The Indonesians, of course, would say that we're bringing them progress, as we said,
Yeah.
in terms, we're bringing them, we've got to pay for schools, we've got to pay for roads, we've got to pay for these sorts of things. At the same time, though, what are they doing? They're clearing the rainforests?
Well, especially in the transmigration sites, they're clearing the rainforests. The Indonesians then plant crops, and the local people have no land rights at all. They have to settle according to the transmigration program.
Okay, and mining, again, the mining companies have moved in?
Huge mining operations there. The largest copper mine in the world, the Freeport Copper Mine, which is a US-owned company. The tribal people have been moved to malaria-infested regions on the south coast. They have no rights. Huge mountains have been blown to the ground, leaving craters. Sides of mountains have been blown away. And on the other side of the Carstens Mountain, which is the highest mountain between the Andes and Himalayas, there's just absolute, complete devastation.
It looks, apart from, if you get clear of the devastation, it looks beautiful country, Shangri-La stuff, isn't it?
It's spectacular, absolutely.
We understandably get upset about what's happening in the Brazilian rainforest, but in fact, it's really happening right next door to us, isn't it?
Exactly.
All right, well done. It's called Arrows Against the Wind, is the name of the documentary. It's on the Cutting Edge program on SBS tonight, right around the country. SBS at 8:30 tonight, Arrows Against the Wind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Few things work as well as Grey Box. Take Phil's new corkscrew. Hurry, darling.